One day, in early summer 1952, Virginia Hensley from Winchester showed up at Good Brothers Garage in Charlestown to see their parts manager, Bill Peer. But she wanted a part in his popular country music group, the Melody Boys and Girls. Now, Bill Peer was a big man in the region's country music scene, with his own Saturday morning show over WEPM radio in Martinsburg, and his band's regular appearances throughout the tri-state Moose Lodge circuit, going as far east as Washington, D.C. But the crown jewel of the Melody Boys and Girls gig schedule were those big Saturday nights every week at the Brunswick Moose Lodge in Brunswick, Maryland. Bill Peer had already told the young 19-year-old Virginia Hensley that, "If you want to get to Nashville, I'll help you. But first, you get some material ready, and then we'll get serious." So here she was, getting serious, and Bill Peer wasn't there. He was away on business. Later that summer, Bobby Carper, a superb steel guitar player for Peer's band, met up with his friend Jumbo Rinker at Carper's Winchester Auto Repair Shop, and he also met Virginia. You see, Jumbo knew Virginia well and even played backup piano for her a few years earlier when Virginia and her mother showed up at a club he was playing at, today the Gables in Berkeley County. About a month later, Jumbo saw Bobby again, and he said, "Hey, Bob, she's driving me nuts. When are you going to set Virginia up with Bill?" On September 27th, 1952, all dressed in her spangled, newfangled glory and fringe, courtesy of her mother, Virginia Hensley stepped up to the microphone at 9 p.m. at the Brunswick Moose Lodge. "Hey there, you remember me?" she said. "Sure do," Bill Peer replied. "Well, I'm ready." "We'll see about that." Just about every jaw in the house dropped, including Bill Peer's. All Virginia Hensley needed was a good band of her own. And after a short conversation later with Bill Peer, Virginia Hensley changed her stage name to Patsy, as in Patsy Cline.
I remember that night at the Tennessee Walk.
It brings out the good in the Melody Boys. We have to play this one to keep us honest every once in a while. It's called Preacher, all right?
This man spent 5 years of his life getting one of our greatest singers, Patsy Cline of Winchester, out of the gin mill gigs of West Virginia and onto the Grand Ole Opry stage and into the hearts of millions. Bill Peer of Charlestown gave Patsy her first good backup band, a savvy manager in himself, and contacts galore. But the problem in the end was Patsy sang crossover stuff, and Bill was 100% pure country music. After that first night in September 1952 on the Brunswick Moose Lodge stage, Bill taught Patsy what he taught many up-and-coming performers. Get up and sing your heart out and sing until you got 'em dancing. Patsy, Bill, and their spouses checked into Nashville's Colonial Motel in the spring of that year to be on the radio show of Bill's influential friend, Ernest Tubb. Ole E.T., as he was called, introduced Patsy to sing 2 songs on his live radio show, the Ernest Tubb Midnight Jamboree, immediately following the Grand Ole Opry broadcast that Saturday. But the phones for Patsy did not ring yet. They were back to playing the Brunswick Moose Lodge and 3 other local venues each week, with Patsy getting a dozen or so dollars for each gig. Then, Bill went to the studio at WEPM in Martinsburg, where he worked, on the second floor of a building on Queen Street, and for a week they recorded a demo tape for her. Now, later in that year, Bill Peer met Jimmy Dean's manager, Bill McCall, and before it was too late, helped sign Patsy into a contract that was nothing more than legal theft of her talent. It gave McCall's company veto power on which song she recorded, and would have kept her on a fixed salary no matter how profitable the sales of her records would become. Now, Jimmy Dean, who knew Patsy, after escaping from McCall's clutches, said to Ellis Nassur in his definitive book on Patsy Cline, "Bill McCall was probably the smoothest operator you'd ever seen in your entire life." And that contract would hold up Patsy's career for almost 6 years, one way or another. Bill Peer, as head of the Melody Boys and Girls, and Patsy being that girl, put money, his marriage, and everything on the line for Patsy, unable to see yet that Patsy Cline would ultimately need another backup band to become a star. The cracks showed in late 1954 in the New York City offices of the half-hour primetime television show Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts. Godfrey's spokesman and assistant, Jeanette Davis, told Peer that Patsy was more a blues singer than a country singer, and that Godfrey would gladly put Patsy on the show, but only as a solo act. Patsy, staying true to her band, refused, and at least this time, they all drove home empty-handed from New York City. And sadly, the seeds of their band's demise were planted, not to mention the demise of Bill Peer's marriage.